Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to continue the series of using Microsoft Recovery Services Vault. The last video we discussed what is Microsoft Azure Backup and how would you use Microsoft Recovery Services Vault. We have also discussed that this is a managed service from Microsoft and you can use it for backup and disaster recovery purposes. You can use Microsoft Azure Recovery Services Vault to back up your Azure workloads, but also your other cloud providers like AWS and GCP and your on-premises infrastructure. And you can create a disaster recovery site for your on-premises infrastructure for your Azure resources such as virtual machines, file servers, and more. Before this video, I have created two Azure virtual machines with different operating system types. One is Windows and another one is Linux. And I will walk you through how to enable Microsoft Azure Backup into those virtual machines. So let's get started. All right, I'm in the Azure portal. So if it's your first time seeing this, this is basically the graphical user interface where you can manage your Azure resources. You need to go to the or log into the portal.azure.com and then sign in with your Hotmail account or even your Microsoft Intra account. If it's your first time seeing the Microsoft Azure portal, normally this is the graphical user interface where you manage your Azure resources. In order to to use Microsoft Recovery Services Vault, you just basically need an Azure subscription and a resource groups. So in my previous video, we have created an Azure resource group called Backup Resource Groups. And then I have created a Linux VM and also the Microsoft Recovery Services Vault. So to see all of my VMs, I just can search by virtual machines or even go from your favorite tab here, virtual machines, or even you can click all services and then click on compute. And then under compute, you should find also virtual machines. They all do the same thing, so you just pick up whatever you're comfortable with. Now, as you can see, I have two virtual machines. The first one is Linux OS, which is Ubuntu 24.04, and the other one is Windows virtual machine with Windows Server 2016 data center. Now, Microsoft really like to do things in or accessibility from different places. So if you don't know what is Microsoft Recovery Services Vault, or even you would like to test the backup, you just can go ahead and from the left tab here, you will find the backup section. And then if you don't have one, you always can create new one, but because we have created this one as or the Recovery Services Vault in our previous video, then you should see this on your your Azure subscription. So normally if this VM is not in the same region, also you won't be able to locate the Azure backup. But because my machine here, if we go back here, you will see that it exists in West Europe. And if we search the Recovery Services Vault, is also exist in West Europe, I'm able to see my my Recovery Services Vault or the backup solution. So sometimes customers might create a backup vault in another region, and then they say, okay, hey, I don't see this Recovery Services Vault because it might be a different region. Now, if we go back here and click on the Linux OS, for example, again, you always can just go to the backup and then select the existing one. And out of the box, you can just select what type of policy, backup policy. So normally there are pre-built ones. Once you create the Azure policy, you can select, let's say, for example, standard. And then these are the pre-configured policies from Microsoft. So normally it might not be the best way to select, to use the pre-built policies, but it's good for a proof of concept. So you can just enable backup and then you will have a backup solution. The other way of doing that is going to the Recovery Services Vault plate. So search for Recovery Services Vault and then click on the backup solution. Then you will find here also there's multiple ways. So the first one is, let me just only showing you the getting started section here. Then you will find the backup info, like the backup tab, and then you can start to start enabling the backup, or even going back to the overview tab and then click on the backup tab here, and then you will find also the same user interface. There are a few questions that it will ask you. So basically, hey, where is your workload running? Is it on Azure? And then if it's in Azure, then is it a virtual machine? Is it Azure file share? So is it coming from a storage account or a file server, basically the managed file server from Microsoft? Is it coming from a SQL server that is installed on an Azure VM? Because it's also an application aware, so it understands what is SQL database or what is the application running inside that VM. Or is it a SAP HANA? So this is also a certified solution for SAP, so you can also use it with SAP workloads as well. But you can also back up the other workloads. So normally the Azure Stack and Azure Stack for private cloud, if you have it on-prem, or even pure on-premises infrastructure like Hyper-V or VMware, or can back up file shares like individual virtual machines that just got file shares, or Microsoft SQL, SharePoint, Exchange, or even the system state of the OS, or the physical machines as well. In today's example, we are going to select the Azure example, so the virtual machine. The other scenarios, we are going to do it in the later video. I have like a lot of labs, so I have VMware environment and Hyper-V environment, which I will show you in the future videos. Just keep following the playlist, and again, always find the my playlist by just looking into the English playlist, because I do also record Arabic as well. So just select the virtual machine and then start to click on backup. As you can see, we're gonna use the pre-built one, because under the policy video we will discuss also the type of policies that you can use with Microsoft Azure Recovery Services Vault. So for that one, we're just gonna go for a standard backup, and then we're gonna use the default policy. As you can see, this is the pre-built one, but you can also create your own custom policy. A policy, basically, how frequently do you want to backup your infrastructure? Is it daily? Is it weekly? And which time? And also select your time zone, and many more. So retention, how long do you want to keep those backup data? And also enable backup tiering, which is also other new features that we will discuss later. So for this video, I'm just showing you here how would you enable this, this one. So we're gonna select the default one. The default one normally has a daily backup at 4:30 a.m. That's the pre-built one from Microsoft. Instant restore, it will retain the copy for 2 days, and the retention, it will just keep the backup data up to 30 days. These normally are depends on your use case. So normally you have to have a discussion with your manager, or even if you're working with a Microsoft consultant, just talk about your recovery requirement or retention requirement. So some organization would like to keep the backup data maybe for 4 months, for a year or 2 years or 7 years and more. It depends on your organization needs, but this is also going to impact the cost. The other thing is just to select your virtual machines. Now, what we will do here is we're going to select one virtual machine, which is the Linux one. And then we click OK. As you can see, also this is Motu. This is the, the Windows machine. I will just only select the Linux OS here. We will do one example from here and another example from the virtual machine itself. As you can see, if there any other disk, so normally if you have an OS and data disk, you can also include the OS disk. And as you can see, this checkbox is saying include any future disk, which is that if you created a data disk, let's say you have a web server or a database where you store the data on a secondary disk on that virtual machine, not on the operating system disk, you don't really need to worry about, okay, I have to enable also the backup on that disk and so on. It will include this one by default from whenever you're gonna create it. Once you're done selecting your resources, just click on enable backup. This will take some time, so I'm going to stop the video and then come back again. Actually, let's use this time to enable or to do the other way. So I'm going to go to the virtual machine blade itself, and then click on the Motu, which is the Windows operating system. And as you can see, this is the Windows operating system, the Mo2. The other one is Ubuntu 24.04 here. So I'm gonna click on Mo2 and then select the backup tab here. Let me just make it bigger. And then do the same thing. Just select the backup vault, select the existing one, so backup, and then I just can select the enhanced policy. And then again, it's just showing me the the configuration of the backup frequency, the restore, the retention of the backup. So the same interface, but in inside the Azure VM itself. And then I will just click on enable the Azure Backup. As you can see here, the other Linux virtual machine successfully enabled. So if I go back to the Microsoft Recovery Services Vault and then select the backup one here, as you can see, this is the overview page that we have discussed the last time. So we should see something from here. As you can see, this is showing me, hey, that there are two critical warnings. This is also an interactive dashboard, which means if I click here, it will take me to the backup alert itself, and it show me here, hey, you have many different features that you didn't enable. And basically I didn't do that because I'm cheap. I didn't enable soft delete and other safety features with Azure Backup because this is just a demo one. But just going back here, we can see the backup jobs that are in progress, how many virtual machines are enabled, and so on. Now, if I go down here to the the protected items or the backup items, I will see if my backup infrastructure. For example, there are many different agents that we also going to discuss in this playlist. If you're using the Azure Backup agent or the on-premises Azure Backup server or integrating with Data Protection Manager. So normally there was a product called System Center Data Protection Manager from the System Center family that exists on-prem. For those who worked in the past with the on-prem world, this is the solution for backing up the on-premises infrastructure. You can actually integrate with Microsoft System DPM, and we will see also a lab environment for this one. And if you have enabled Azure Storage, which we will see also in the upcoming videos, again, Azure Files, you will see that. And if you have SQL database, same thing, SAP HANA, the same. Now, we're just going to click on the Azure Virtual Machine. And then we will see here that there is a some information here that I have two operating systems. The first one is the backup pre-check is done. Warning is that initial backup is pending. That's mean it's still waiting to at 4 a.m. to start this backup, but I can go ahead and manually enforce that. So to do this, I can just click on view details here, and then I will see my my Azure virtual machine or the Linux virtual machine data here. So I can do backup, I can stop the backup protection on this virtual machine. I can restore the VM, but right now because we don't have any backups, so it's gonna be dimmed. So what I will do now is just I'm gonna start to click on backup now, and then I could do say, hey, retain till today. Yeah, that's fine. Now the backup is gonna start to trigger, so the trigger for Linux OS. So if we go back here, refresh, this warning should change. Okay, let's leave it for a while. Yeah. And then as you can see, I can see here what's going on the monitoring section. So I can see the backup reports here. Sorry, not the backup reports. This is we will discuss this also in a different video, but basically the backup jobs here. This is just out of the box, out of the box feature that you can see exactly how much does or what kind of activities is happening on this backup jobs played. So for example, we have done an operation type, configuring the backup, which is the topic for today. The type is Azure Virtual Machines, and then how how much time does it take. So it's like, 30 seconds. And then we started a backup job here. So its total duration is like 37 seconds. As you can see, it's telling me here, hey, the backup triggered successfully. If I click here, now what is happening is creating or showing me the VM name. So it's exactly explaining the logs, what's going on, the activity type, and also what's this backup or what's going on here. So now it's taking a snapshot from that VM, and then it will transfer it to the vault itself. It will take some time, depends on, again, the speed of the VM, how busy is this VM, like how large is the backup files, and so on. So normally it's like the experience, or to know the how much time does it take, you always have to monitor the backup jobs from here, and then you will know exactly, okay, how much time does it take to back up the data, and how much time also when you do a restore job, how much time does it take to to restore this data as well. So you always can track all of this from here. Another example that we are going to do today is also go from the other virtual machine. So we have configured the Linux one. We can, as you can see here, if it's configured, then you also should see the backup job here. If there are any snapshots, you should be able to see it here. And again, the backup pre-check is passed, but there is no backup, so it's pending. Again, this warning is gonna go away once the backup is finished. So if we go now from the other virtual machine, so we can click here and also select the backup. Then we can start to click on backup now and then retain the data until today. So same thing, you can do it from the Microsoft Recovery Services Vault, or you can do it from the Azure Virtual Machine Blade. It doesn't really matter. One more thing I want to show you today is if you go back to the Recovery Services Vault, and especially if you are testing this, make sure to to disable some security feature of this backup, because otherwise you're gonna go into circles. So if you click here on the backup configuration under the properties, first is that make sure if you're testing this, it's a locally redundant, which means is that it's gonna be replicated in the same data center. If it's zone redundant, it's gonna be cross availability zone, and if it's geo redundant, this is the disaster recovery option, which means is that the backup data is gonna be replicated across multiple regions. The other thing here, you will see that I have a lot of poor things, but the soft delete by default is enabled, and you'll see that there is an enable soft delete option, which means is that if I try to delete this backup data, it will always be kept for 14 days. So I normally disable these features before I do start any demo or testing this environment, so that if I want to delete the vault, I just don't wait for 14 days and so on. But you always can disable this soft delete and then delete the backup data. If this is enabled, you won't be able to delete this backup data immediately, or basically you won't be able to delete the backup vault itself. All right, I'm going to stop this video and then come back again when the backup job is finished. Everything looks okay now. So the backup job finished. So let's go back to the Recovery Services Vault and view what's going on. So as an admin, you can just go ahead and take a look at the backup jobs here, and you can see there are two backup jobs are running. It seems not yet, so just let's take a look. Yeah, the snapshot is completed here. Now it's gonna transfer to the vault. We will talk about how actually what's different between the vault and just a snapshot, the transfer process that happens between the actual storage account and to the backup vault. We will talk about this, but I just want to show you here that this is actually up and running. If we go back to the the backup job, the backup infrastructure here, click on the Azure Virtual Machine, select this one, As you can see, there is a a snapshot got created, and then the last backup status is success, which means the warning now is gone and it's successful backup. You can go ahead and restore the VM, or even you can do file recovery, but we will talk about this in a different video. You can also stop the backup as well, all right? Or you can do another backup job. As you can see also, there's a lot of information about this, if you want to view the alerts in the last 24 hours, what's happened with this job or this backup job. Also, the oldest restore point is showing you also it's 15 minutes ago, so it's not too old, and then you can restore from that backup as well. You can see also on the 3 dots is the same thing here, restore and file recovery. It's also referenced here. If we look at in a different view, if we go back to the Linux virtual machine itself and then select the Azure Backup, you'll see the same view, again, backup, restore, file recovery, stop backup, and so on, and also your backup snapshot here. I hope that you have learned something new. Thanks for watching.